Dear students, in this session we will learn about the practical aspects of phylum Annelida. So here you will learn about morphology of earthworm, TS of earthworm through Typhlosole, Nereis, TS of parapodium and heteronereis. I am Dr. Lata, Assistant Professor, Department of Zoology, Maharani Science College for Women, Bengaluru. Now to begin with, I'm sure that you all know the general characters of phylum Annelida and its classification. So just to take a recap of the general characters, annelids are the triploblastic, bilaterally symmetrical, metamerically segmented coelomate worms with a thin flexible cuticle around the body, and they do not show any very distinguished appendages, though they exhibit this setae or chetae or at the most the parapodium that helps in their locomotion. And alimentary canal, if you look at, like, it's tube like and it's complete, extends from mouth to anus. Respiration occurs through general body surface and in some cases gills also. And circulatory system or the blood vascular system is of closed type, and the blood is red due to the presence of hemoglobin or the erythrocrurorin found dissolved in the plasma. The excretion takes place by segmentally arranged nephridia. Nervous system is composed of a cerebral ganglia that refers to the brain, and they also have this double nerve card having segmentally arranged ganglion. They have sense organs like that tactile organs, taste buds, the statocyst, the photoreceptor cells, and eyes. And reproduction wise, like they could be monoecious, they are hermaphrodites, or in some forms they are dioecious also. Development is direct in monoecious forms but indirect in dioecious forms. A free swimming trophophore larva is the characteristic feature of this phylum in case of indirect development. And asexual reproduction is also seen in some forms. And this phylum Annelida is classified into 4 classes. One is class Polychaeta. Poly means many, having chaetae, many number of bristles or setae. So the example being earthworms. Example being the Nereis, Aphrodite, the Sebella, etc. And class 2 is Oligochaeta. Oligo means few. These are the forms having very few setae in them. Example earthworms, the tubifex, etc. Excuse me. And class 3 is Hirudinium, which the example for this is leech. And the last class is Archaeannelida. Archae means the first form. So these are the first formed annelidans. Example the Polygordius and Nerilla and Sacocyrus, etc. So here we'll be focusing more mainly on these examples of Oligochaeta. Example earthworm, polychaetes, example Nereis and heteronereis. And we'll also look into a few systems in case of leech, which belongs to class Hirudinea. Now with this, let us start with the practical aspects of it. So as we said, earthworms, they belong to the class Oligochaeta, and the picture of the earthworm that is shown here, that belongs to the genus Lumbricus. Now to start with, to learn the morphology of earthworm, a fully grown earthworm, a mature worm, it measures about 3 to 5 mm in width and 150 mm in length. The immature earthworm or a very young earthworm, we call it as juvenile. So a mature earthworm that measures up to 150 mm in length and 3 to 5 mm in width. And this, if you look at its shape, they are long, elongated, cylindrical and narrow in shape. And the color of this earthworms appears dark brown in color due to the presence of a pigment called porphyrin. Now it is this pigment that protects the animal from the harmful UV rays. And also you can see on the dorsal surface a dark colored median line running from the anterior end to the posterior end. That is due to the presence of dorsal blood vessel which is seen through the integument. Now when we say that body is metamerically segmented and it is made up of many segments or the somites, now from where will the new segments add on? Is it from the anterior end or is it from the posterior end? Here the new segment formation takes place from the posterior end, that is towards the segment which bears anus, and that is called as pygidium. So the new segments are formed in front of anus. So that way the newly formed segment will be found towards the posterior end, and the oldest segment of the worm will be seen in its anterior most tip. That is, the peristomium, which is the first segment of the body, will be the oldest segment, while the preanal segment, which is in front of the anus, will be the youngest segment of the body. So if you look at this picture, you can make out the very first segment labeled as the peristomium, and in front of peristomium you have one more overhanging segments called as prostomium, and then the dark black color bands that you see in every segment is the setae, which helps in locomotion. And then you can see thick glandular structure called as clitellum. We will learn in detail as to what these structures are. And then the mid dorsal line that I mentioned, which is nothing but the dorsal blood vessel, is seen as a median line passing throughout the body, and then the anus or the pygidial segment. Now body segmentation, if you see, it is divided into the prostomium, trunk and the pygidium. The prostomium is a fleshy lobe that overhangs the mouth, and in this diagram you can clearly see the prostomium is overhanging the mouth, and then the first segment is the peristomium. Peri means around the mouth, so it is the segment that's present around the mouth, and then followed by the other metameric segments bearing a ring of setae. So the trunk here, in case of Ferritima posthuma, that has around 100 to 120 similar segments called as metameres or somites, and the pygidium are the last segment that bears anus. The segments are separated externally by intersegmental grooves and internally by corresponding intersegmental septa. The external segmentation corresponds with the internal segmentation. Now, earthworm does not have any distinct head, and also sense organs like eyes, cirri, tentacles all are absent. The first segment of the body at the anterior end is called the buccal segment or the peristomium, which bears a terminal crescent shaped mouth. Now the mouth is bordered by an anterior edge of peristomium, and it is overhung by a prostomium. Now let us look at the clitellar region. Now in the earlier picture we said this clitellum, here also you can see the rest of the body of the earthworm is brown in color with number of segmentation, and in this region of clitellum it shows only it doesn't show any kind of segmentation because it becomes very thick and glandular because it possesses large number of glands that are present in the clitellar region. So in a mature earthworms, a prominent circular band around the segments 14 to 16 becomes glandular, and it is called clitellum, or it is also called as cingulum. Based on the location of the clitellum, the body of the earthworm is distinguished into three regions, namely the preclitellar region, that is the region of the body in front of the clitellum, the clitellar region, the segments which possess this clitellum, and the post clitellar regions, that is the region behind the clitellum. This is how the body of the earthworm gets distinguished based on the presence of clitellum. Now this position of the clitellum varies from one species to the other. Like here in case of Feritema posthuma, the clitellum is consist of these segments 14, 15 and 16. In other species it may made up of 15, 16 and 17, or it may include from 14 to 17. So it varies from species to species. Now the other apertures that you see on the body wall of this earthworm is the genital papilla and the other genital pores. So genital papilla are two pairs of conspicuous rounded elevations, means protruding structures, one pair each in the 17th and the 19th segments, and it is seen only on the ventral surface. So each papilla, it bears a shallow cup-like depression at its top which acts as sucker during copulation. Now the other apertures that you see here are the nephridiopores, which are the openings of integumentary nephridia that are present, and these are minute apertures present on the body wall behind the first two segments. They are scattered irregularly all over the surface of the body. On the ventral surface of the 14th segment, a single median aperture called a female genital aperture is present, and on the ventral surface of the 18th segment there is a pair of male genital apertures. 4 pairs of small elliptical openings called the spermathecal apertures are situated ventrolaterally, that is on the ventral side towards the lateral margins, in the intersegmental grooves. Now intersegmental means in between the segments, whatever groove you get, in that groove you find these openings in the segments 5 to 6, that is in the intersegmental groove between segment 5 and 6, 6 and 7 and 7 and 8. So one pair is present in each intersegmental grooves. So you can observe these pictures for a clear idea as to how these apertures are placed. So this is with respect to the morphology of earthworm, Feritema posthuma, and these apertures, they help in the process of reproduction for exchange of sperms and ova during copulation, and clitellum also plays a very important role in the formation of cocoon, so that you can learn in detail when we learn about reproduction in earthworms in your theory aspect. As far as practicals are concerned, you will be given with a bottle specimen of earthworm, and these are the morphological characters that is expected out of you in your answer. So moving on, let us learn few different types of earthworm. Now earthworms, basically they are they live, some of them live on surface of the ground, and some of them will live make burrows and live. Some of them dig vertical burrows and some of them do horizontal burrows. So based on their ecological habitat, they are divided into 3 types. One is epigeic. Epi means on the surface of the ground. So the one which are found on the surface is called as epigeic, and they are mostly these vermicomposting species of earthworms which feed on the leaf and the organic matter litter. And the second group are these anic earthworm species. They are soil dwellers and they dig deep. They make vertical burrows, and they live in vertical and unbranched burrows, and they also feed on the organic matter that are dragged inside the burrow. And the third one is the endogeic form. Endogeic means the ones which are which make horizontal burrows, but they mainly feed on soil. They do not mainly depend on this organic matter litter, but rather they feed on soil, and they show very light pigmentation. Their skin will be very light in color, and they create a network of horizontal branching burrows, and their size will also be small to medium in size, whereas the Hanic species, they make long vertical burrows. So these are three different varieties of earthworm based on their ecological habitat. So I'll show you few example of each type. Now this is an Eudrillus eugene, and which is a very famous vermicomposting type of earthworm. They are, they decompose this organic matter and the leaf litter at the fastest rate, and they are the ones which are employed in vermicomposting. And if you can see, the body has got this purplish tinge and greenish to purplish tinge, and they are suitable for composting, and they are epigeic forms. They found on the surface of the soil. This is Lampito marushi, and they are the vertical burrows or the endozoic form. So they live in vertical burrows, but they also feed on the organic matter. You can see the coloration of the body. It is lightish brown in color when compared to the Eudrillus species. And also, as I said, you should observe for the clitellum, or this thick band like structure, which varies from in Eudrillus eugene. In the previous slide it was different, here it is different. So this is an endozoic form, and this is one more species called as Pontoscolex corethrurus, which is an endozoic form, and this is an endozoic form. This is Lampito marushi is an aneic form, which makes vertical burrows, and they feed on organic matter. This is an endozoic form which makes horizontal and branching kind of burrows with a very pale or light skin pigmentation. Their clitellum is orangish in color. The band or the clitellum is orangish in color, and they have this protruding kind of prostomium. You can see the tip here shows it's little different. So this is one more variety of earthworm. Now, to learn about the next aspect in the practicals, that is, you will have a slide in which there is a TS of earthworm taken passing through the Typhlosole. Now, what is the Typhlosole? It's a part of the intestine. Now, to learn that, we have to just have a look at how the alimentary canal of an earthworm look like. So this is a picture showing the alimentary canal or the digestive tract in case of earthworm. It starts from mouth, pharynx, esophagus, gizzard, stomach, and then stomach leading to intestine. Now in intestine you will have one thin fold of one thin extra fold, that is the inner lining of the intestine. It folds itself, forming a additional layer called as Typhlosole, and this Typhlosole increases the area of absorption. Now, because of the presence of this Typhlosole, the whole length of the intestine is classified into 3 regions, and this Typhlosole starts from the mid-gut region, that is from the from the middle portion of the intestine. So based on the presence of this Typhlosole, you have the intestine is divided into 3 regions. One is pre-Typhlosolar region, that is a region in front of Typhlosole. Typhlosolar region, that is the region of the midgut that shows the presence of this Typhlosole, and then post-Typhlosolar region, that is the region after the Typhlosolar region, which mainly which is called as the hindgut. So in higher vertebrates we call it as foregut, midgut, and the hindgut. So here foregut is the one which does not show the presence of Typhlosole. Midgut region shows the presence of typhlosole, and hindgut, that is the last part of the intestine, there you do not get any typhlosole being present. And then finally it ends with anus. Now looking at this midgut, a slide which passes through the typhlosole, this is how it looks like here. Now the diagram I have taken from a book, Invertebrates by Kotpal, and this is how even it will be seen in the slide. So since it is a TS, it is quite obvious that you will have the section of body wall also. So here you find the cuticle, the epidermis, then a band of circular muscles followed by longitudinal muscles, and you will see coelom. You will show the presence of dorsal blood vessel, and then you will have this intestine, right? So in this intestinal region, in the anterior tip, if you see, there is one overhanging structure which is dropping down, which is called as a typhlosole. Now why such typhlosoles are formed is because it increases the area of absorption. Now the pre-typhlosolar region, the one which is without typhlosole, that lies between the 15th to the 26th segments, and it is called as pre-typhlosolar region. And beyond that, that is in the typhlosolar region, that is the second part of the intestine, it extends from the 26th segments backwards, means from 26th segment onwards till the last 23rd to 25th segment in front of the anus. I hope you got this point right. So stomach leads to intestine, and this intestine starts from 15th to the 26th segment till the 26th segment. From the anterior end, it is called typhlosolar region. See, for example, if this is the length of the intestine and if this is the 26th segment, so till here you have pre-typhlosolar region without any typhlosole, and the typhlosole starts from this 26th segment onwards till if this is the anus, the end is the anus, from here you have to count 23 segments, 23 or 25 segments. So typhlosole extends from this 26th segment from the anterior end till the 23rd segment upwards from the posterior end. Okay, if this is the anus, if this is the 23rd segment or 25th segment, so in this region you find the typhlosole, and it is this region which is called as the typhlosolar region. I hope I made it clear to you. So this region, it is provided with an internal median fold. Here you can see this internal median fold which is shown here, of the dorsal wall, which is the typhlosole, and it runs all along the whole length from this 26th segment to the 23rd segment from the posterior end. Now what is the function of this typhlosolar region? That mainly increases the absorptive surface of the intestine. Like we have villi, finger-like projections in our intestine, here it has this typhlosole which increases the absorptive surface of the intestine. And in peritoneum, this typhlosole is developed and is represented by a slight fold of the internal epithelial lining which projects into the lumen of the gut and encloses a capillary blood vessel. So if you are given with this slide, you will identify it as the slide showing TS of earthworm through typhlosole, and you will mention about these segments are very important. They are segment specific, and you will